Today, we're asking something fundamental. Are those personality traits we sometimes call dark really the same everywhere, or do they kind of shift depending on the culture?
Yeah, it's a great question. We're talking about the Dark Triad. That's Machiavellianism, narcissism, and psychopathy.
Right, the ones involving manipulation, maybe entitlement, a lack of empathy.
Exactly those.
Yeah.
And measuring them consistently across different cultures. Well, that's been a real puzzle for researchers for a while now.
It sounds tricky, like using the same ruler but finding it measures differently depending on where you are. There's this tool, the short dark triad, the SD3, right?
Widely used, but making sure it measures the same thing in the same way everywhere, what researchers call invariance, that's been the hurdle.
So the traditional ways of checking this, they kind of hit a wall, especially with lots of different groups involved.
Pretty much, yeah. They often fail to show that full, consistent validity across the board. So this deep dive looks at a newer approach, something called network analysis, used in a study checking the SD3 across 14 different nations or cultures.
Okay, network analysis. So our mission today is to sort of unpack what seems universal about these traits and what might be more culturally flavored.
That's the plan.
So if the old way struggled, how does this network-based invariance testing work? What's different about it?
Well, instead of just assuming there's one single hidden factor for, say, Machiavellianism, this method looks at how the individual questions on the survey directly link up and reinforce each other, like a web.
Ah, okay.
It focuses on something called network loadings, basically, how strongly each question connects to its little neighborhood or community of related questions.
So less about finding one big narcissism score and more about how the specific narcissistic behaviors or attitudes cluster together. That does sound more nuanced.
It is, yeah. And what was really key in this study, they looked at all 27 items on the SD3, including the reverse-coded ones.
Oh, the ones phrased oppositely, to check consistency, like, I am not manipulative.
Exactly. That gave them a much more flexible, sort of fine-grained picture of how these traits actually look on the ground globally.
And the scale here was pretty massive, wasn't it? Over 15,000 people.
Huge. 15,690 participants, 13 countries, 12 languages. It really gives the findings some weight.
So after all that analysis, what was the big verdict? Does the SD3 hold up across cultures?
Well, the results are quite compelling. It seems the SD3 does generally keep its three-part structure, Machiavellianism, narcissism, psychopathy across these cultures.
Okay, so the basic blueprint is there. That's called configural invariance.
You got it. And beyond that, for 13 of the 27 items, it showed what's called approximate metric invariance, which means the strength of the connection between the question and the trait it measures is pretty similar across cultures. Not identical, but close.
Only 13 out of 27 showing that similar strength, though. Is that good?
Actually, yes. In cross-cultural research, that's quite good.
Okay.
Only about 16% of those connections, those loadings, showed significant differences between cultures. That's well within what researchers consider acceptable. It suggests a strong degree of similarity.
Okay, so there is a universal core. What does that look like? Which specific questions really captured the essence of each trait no matter where you looked?
Right. So for Machiavellianism, the strategic manipulative part, the most central universal item, was strategic information tracking.
Like always knowing what's going on, who knows what, kind of calculating.
Exactly. That subtle, planned aspect seems pretty global. Then for narcissism, it was externally validated specialness.
Meaning the need for other people to tell you you're special, not just thinking it yourself.
Precisely. That constant need for outside praise to feed the grandiosity, that seems universal too.
And psychopathy.
The core item there was people often say, I'm out of control, pointing toward that impulsivity, maybe poor self-control, as a key feature everywhere.
So those items are like the bedrock, the most reliable cross-cultural indicators for each trait.
You could say that, yeah. They seem to tap into the unique defining features consistently.
But then there's the flip side of the cultural differences. Where did things vary the most?
Yeah, this is where it gets interesting. Items like having a vengeful mindset, or the one about, I insist on getting the respect I deserve. Those showed much more variation.
Ah, so wanting revenge or demanding respect might be expressed or even interpreted differently depending on the cultural context.
It seems so. The way those items connected to the overall trait structure wasn't as stable across all the groups.
And the study highlighted Japan specifically, right? The differences were often most noticeable when comparing with the Japanese sample.
That's right. It strongly suggests that cultural norms, maybe things like collectivism versus individualism, or different social pressures about showing or hiding certain traits, They really do influence how these things manifest or how people respond to questions about them.
So while the basic traits might exist everywhere, the specific way they show up can definitely be shaped by culture.
Absolutely. Same underlying trait perhaps, but a different outward expression or internal experience depending on the society.
Okay, so practically speaking, what does this mean for researchers or maybe even clinicians trying to assess these traits across cultures?
Well, it means we can be smarter about which questions we rely on for cross-cultural work. We can maybe prioritize those really stable invariant items, like that strategic information tracking one.
And be more cautious with the ones that vary a lot.
Exactly. Or maybe think about developing culturally adapted versions for those items. This network approach gives us a much more, detailed map than just a simple yes or no on whether a test works everywhere.
It really offers a more sophisticated lens, doesn't it? A way to see both the universal patterns and the specific cultural colors.
It does. It moves beyond simple comparisons.
So it leaves us with a thought then. If even our understanding of something seemingly fundamental like dark personality traits is influenced by cultural context, what other aspects of human psychology, of human behavior might we be misinterpreting or maybe just not fully grasping when we look across different global communities?
That's the big question, isn't it? It certainly opens up a lot to think about.